In this example, we're going to look at the limit that does not exist. The y value does not converge to a particular number as x value approaches c. So here's an example. Evaluate the limit x approaches 0 sine pi over x numerically. Okay, so sine pi over x is what we are trying to evaluate here. And we can see that graphically, the graph is oscillating here. There's oscillations. We can also see numerically. I pick the values closer and closer. As I'm getting closer and closer to the number 0, we pick the values of x and plug them into. Remember, make sure your calculator is in the radian mode. So radian mode in calculus, your calculator should always be in the radian mode. We would almost never use the degree mode in calculus for trig functions. Okay, so radian mode, plug into the calculator and find out the values of y values, or the function values, output values. And you can see that these values are oscillating. These values, they are switching between positives and negative numbers. They are not as I'm looking at very close to x equals 0, which of these numbers are the closest to x equals 0? Looks like it's this one and 0.0009 on the positive side. And so both of these are going from positive to negative. The numbers are switching the signs. So they're not the same numbers coming from either side. Thus, we would say the limit does not exist. So the limit x approaches 0 sine pi over x does not exist. Okay, does not exist. In some cases, both one-sided limits exist, but they're not equal to each other. Here's an example. Find the left-sided and the right-sided limit for the function x, for the function at x equals 0. So we're given the function f of x is x over absolute value of x. Does this limit exist? Earlier, we've talked about that in order for the limit to exist, both left-sided limit and the right-sided limit have to be the same number. Let's go ahead and evaluate limit x approaches 0 from the left-hand side and limit x approaches 0 from the right hand side, and see what is happening here. So as I'm approaching 0 from the right hand side, the definition of absolute value function, keep in mind, absolute value of x is equal to x if x is greater than 0. It's opposite of x if x is less than or equal to 0. We need to have equal sign in one of those to make sure the function is continuous here. So if I'm doing the positive, coming to the 0 from the positive side, I would be using, if I'm coming to 0 from the positive side, absolute value of x would be equal to x, and that would be equal to 1. That would be equal to x over x, which is equal to 1. And if I'm coming from the left-hand side of 0, absolute value of x would be equal to negative x, or opposite of x, and that would be x over negative x, which is negative 1. So coming from both sides, the limits are approaching to different numbers. We would say the limit x equals 0, this limit does not exist because I'm not approaching the same y value coming from left and right hand side. I'm approaching two different y values, and that tells me that the limit does not exist.